and we're looking forward to learning from you. So without further ado, I hand it over to PinkAngel and I will do your slides for you. So welcome everyone.
Yes, thank you so much, Marianne, for the very warm and generous introduction. So welcome everyone from all over Ontario. Happy Pride to you all. I will start off with the land acknowledgement and then the African ancestral acknowledgement. I am reaching you from Takaranto, Turtle Island. Takaranto means where there are trees in the water. And originally they were weirs in the narrows where they put fish traps. But Takaranto is now known as Toronto. And it is in the area, in the territory, rather, of Treaty 13, which is also part of the Two Rural Wampum Belt and the Dish of One Spoon, which I will get into very soon. So the land here in Ontario has been populated by many First Nations for millennia. The Haudenosaunee, the Wendat, the Anishinaabeg, the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Métis, the Inuit, and in fact, very many other First Nations make Ontario their home. Ontario by itself has 46 treaties. For example, for those of you from the north around Sault Ste. Marie, that is the Huron-Robinson Treaty, and there's yet another one, the Huron-Robinson Superior Treaty. So, and there are, and then there's the Williams treaties, further south, and these treaties, by the way, are legal and binding. There's 46 of them in Ontario alone. And just to give you an idea of how many treaties there is across Canada, there's 70 treaties that are historic, meaning from the 1600s to the present. And 11 of them are numbered, and there is 25 modern day treaties. So from about 1975 to present, there are 25 more treaties. So there's very many treaties across the nation. And one of the issues with treaties is that very few people know that these many treaties exist. And the Truth and Reconciliation Committee asks that we educate ourselves about the treaties. That is the first pillar of the 5 pillars of the Truth and Reconciliation recommendations. So, and in Toronto in particular, there is 2 other treaties, one treaty and one covenant. So treaties are between 2 nations or more, 2 or more nations. And a covenant is between 2 or more peoples. So the Two Rural Wampum Belt was signed in 1613. And it is, as you can see, 2 purple rows and 3 white rows. So the 2 purple rows represent the settlers who came from across the ocean. And the second one is, the top one is for the natives. If you can see it, they do not intersect. They are parallel to each other, and therefore it has great significance of this treaty. And the three white rows represent peace, friendship, and perpetuity. So this agreement, this treaty, is that we'll live in peace, friendship, and and forever, uh, so long as the sun shines, the rivers flow, and the grass grows. So that's the meaning of these two purple rows and three white rows. These are legal and binding treaties, and we are all treaty people. And these agreements and treaties were signed a long time ago. Now, the dish with one spoon agreement, it is a covenant. It is a sacred covenant that was signed in 1701. So, quite a few hundred years ago. And the dish with one spoon uh, notably has no sharp objects in it, like a fork and a knife and so on. So the dish is round, and whatever is in it, we are to share equitably and to not take more than we need. So we have a responsibility to steward this land, the area of Toronto, for all generations to come. So there it is again in perpetuity that this sacred covenant is has been made. So these are the three agreements the area of Toronto uh, is under, and we are all obligated and have the responsibility to share this land with the First Nations peoples. So I will continue on to the African ancestral acknowledgement now. Thank you, Marianne. So the city of Toronto, where I am reaching you from, acknowledges that the people of African origin were forcibly taken from their homeland and transported to the so-called New World. But to the people in the New World, namely the Americas, South America and North America, they've been here for millennia. And the people in Africa also had been in their homelands for millennia. But in the 1500s, the white colonists decided to engage in slavery. So they took slaves from West Africa, but also very few people know that they took many more from East Africa. There was about 12.5 million from West Africa and about 10 to 18 million they extrapolate from the shipping logs that they took about those many from Eastern Africa. And I'm actually born in East Africa in Mombasa, Kenya. And in my hometown, it's a port town, it's an island. There is a fort built by the Portuguese in 1523, and they finished it in 1526. And of all things, it's called Fort Jesus. This fort was a trading fort, and it used to hold slaves in the earlier days. Today, it's a World UNESCO Heritage Site, and you can visit it. And I visited during high school. I lived literally in the shadows and played on the beach below the fort and played in the shadows of Fort Jesus. And it still exists to this day, but they will not tell you it was used for slavery. But I know better because I saw the iron posts on the second and third floors with shackles, chains, uh, in the ground on the floors. So that was used uh, as a slave holding um, fort. Okay, next slide, please. So this presentation is to give you a a broader understanding and context of the rainbow community, and it's the terminology and how to, at the end, how to go about mediation. Um, thank you, Maria. So gender identity is something that people often confuse with expression, gender expression. Gender identity in a single word can be uh, defined as inwardly. It's something internal and it's innate to each and every individual, including non rainbow people. For example, I am a trans woman of color. Innately, I knew when I was very, very young that I was not male. I knew that I was more female than male. So this is an innate sense of inner self, of who one is. So that's the difference between identity and expression. So I'll deal with expression next. And gender expression is an, in one word, can be described as outwardly. So the way you dress, the way you present, the way you speak, your tone, your language, the way you wear your hair, and so on. That's an outwardly expression of your inner self. So that's what it means that's what we mean by gender expression. Um, what one presents to the world outwardly. So, next, please. Sexual orientation means who one is attracted to. For example, it could be female to female, male to male, a trans person to another trans person, or it could be a trans male to a trans woman, or a trans woman to a straight male, or a trans male. So that's what orientation is, who one is attracted to. And this could also change over time, and we'll get into that later as gender expansive and fluidity. So thank you, Marianne. This is the pride flag. On the right side, as you can see, are the rainbow colors per se, and red is for life, and orange for healing, and yellow for sunlight, and green for nature, and blue for serenity, and indigo violet for spirit. And the brown and the black is to represent the brown and black communities. And the blue, pink, and white is for the transgender community. And then the yellow triangle with the purple ring is for the intersex community. So that's what the pride flag. This is called the progress flag because originally it was only the colors on the right without the other uh, uh, seven colors. Um, okay, so the two spirit flag here has two feathers, as you can see, and feathers have a very symbolic meaning in the First Nations community. And the acronym 2SLGBTQIA+, it comes first because of the primacy of the First Nations. So that's the reason why we put it first. And this term is used specifically for Indigenous people who claim to be two-spirit because it has the masculine and feminine characteristics in them. And this came as a dream to Myra Laramie in about 1990 at the third annual Native Intertribal gay and the intertribal native gay and lesbian um, fest at the Winnipeg, Manitoba legislature. And so she promoted this term two spirit. Generally, we don't use two spirited, means it means that it was in the past, but two spirit means presently. So no one else can use this term two spirit other than First Nations people. In Anishinaabemowin, it means Nis Mani Doag, which means two spirit. Okay, this is the flag of the lesbian community, and it generally means a woman who is attracted to another woman. And it has a long history, actually, in about the Middle Ages, around 600 BC. Sappho, a poet, a Greek poet, uh, advocated for feminine homoerotica. And she has two dualities. The word sapphic from her name and Lesbos, where she actually was born and lived. And that's the reason why we get lesbian today from that island in the in the Greek archipelago. So that's the origin of the name lesbian. It's come from the island Lesbos. Now, in the 60s and 70s, here in Canada and around North America, the lesbians started a cultural movement for equality and, as you well know, women's liberation, and is best known by the double Venus sign, um, which is not on this flag, but it often is on a pride flag. But I wanted to show the lesbian flag itself. Um, and, during those times, after the suffragist movement, where only white women could get the vote, there was tensions even in the lesbian community of accepting transgender people, particularly of color, people like me, and that tension still exists to this day. So just as a background thing, we're not fully accepted by the 2S LGBTQ community, um, even though we've been accepted legally, and I'll get into that. So the next one is gay, which generally refers to uh, men who love men. So a man who is attracted to another male or another man, and that's the term that has been used by the rainbow community for a very long time. And how it came about that we had this gay movement was in 1981 in Toronto here. They had what is known as the bathhouse raids, and there was four of them on Bay Street, Richmond Street, Mutual Street, and Widmer Street. So there's four different sections of Toronto, and 286 men were arrested. There was no women, only men were arrested from the bathhouse, and they were called, um, they were found-ins. That means they were found in these bathhouses, and they were charged. And there was also 20 um, owners or managers who were also arrested. So in total, about 306 were arrested on February 5th, 1981. And the community was so enraged that the very next day they started marching in front of 52 Division on College Street here in Toronto, and then on to Queen's Park. And that was actually the first inclination of rainbow pride. What we have today, 45 years later, We have Pride Parade. So that is, part of the history. And it was actually bathhouse to go to a bathhouse was actually legal. It's what was not legal is where you could perform, where you could go. Um, for example, if it was in your home, that was illegal. If you had gay sex, it was illegal even in your own home. Uh, so that's part of the anger and rage from the community, and they thought that was not legal, and in fact, it wasn't. So the next one is bisexual. This means that a person is attracted either to a male or a female. So a female could be attracted to a female or a male, and a male can be attracted to a female and male. So that's what it means. And this is quite a small community, and they face an erasure of their identity, isolation, alienation, exclusion, anxiety, depression, risk of violence, victimization, poor health outcomes because of exclusion compared to the street community because of their sexuality. So this is something that also we trans people face on a very regular basis. Um, so next, please, Marianne. So this is the transgender flag. Um, the white represents uh, peace as usual, and the pink represents the female characteristics, and the blue represent the male characteristics. Uh, Transgender people face extreme uh, discrimination, and it's well documented in police reports, in all institutions uh, across the country, in terms of education, um, employment, mental health care, healthcare in general. They face extreme discrimination, very much the same as bisexual individuals. And transgender people were not recognized uh, until June 17th, 2017. So in a week from now, it'll be 9 years that we've been recognized uh, in legal terms as what is known as code protected persons. So this is a legal protection for grounds of discrimination. For example, if they're excluded because they're transgender from employment, from healthcare, from education, from accessing government services, they cannot be discriminated against. So this is very, very new to the general public, and they haven't quite figured out that we're actually protected persons now. If you remember, in 1982, on July 1st, that was the Constitution, but we were not included in the Constitution. So not until about 7 years ago were we included. And we face extreme discrimination on all levels. For example, when I was working during my working years, I was always paid minimum wage and never promoted despite having a diploma. Imagine you make minimum wage now in retirement. I get the absolute minimum CPP and OAS. So it's a cycle of poverty that we endure as trans people. So the next slide, Marianne, is uh, queer. So this term queer was a, a word of pride and honor amongst rainbow people. But then it was co-opted by the culture and was used as a derogatory word. Um, but it has since been reclaimed, particularly by the rainbow community. So it's a point of pride to be called queer, but mostly amongst other queer individuals in the rainbow community. Um, Often, people who are not from the rainbow community uh, do not use it, and they think and it's used in a derogatory way. So, and in the 2S LGBTQIA plus, Q is not just for to represent queer, but also questioning. So there is, usually younger individuals, but it could be people in their 60s or older, that they're questioning their um, gender identity. So they might not know, especially the younger crowd, the younger generations, and even if you're in your 60s, you may not uh, know that you're completely straight male or straight female. So that's the reason for having the Q. It's both queer and questioning. And then they need support. The questioning group needs support in exploring their identity. So that's another distinction between the two Qs. Now, in intersex, um, during ancient times in Greek mythology, uh, Hermaphroditus, the child of Hermes and Aphrodite, had a child, and they called that individual Hermaphroditus, like so the two names, Hermes and Aphrodite. And that was used from antiquity to just recently, but now it's become not only a derogatory word, but it's not also not accurate because the medical term for this group, intersex, is ovotesticular. So they have both gametes, ovaries and testes. So this is the reason why they use intersex. So it's in the spectrum between male and female because they have both both gametes to varying degrees, of course, and one may be more dominant than the other. So intersex people uh, have been recognized in antiquity. For example, the deity Shiva uh, is carved in living rock in India in temples from 10,000 years ago. So the bottom half is male and the top half is female with long hair and breasts and so on. And there was also many others in antiquity. Favorius of Arelate in the early in 80 to 160 AD, and was a Roman philosopher who discussed this sort of thing. And also in recent times, there was Caster Semenya, the South African middle distance runner, who was actually born intersex. And more famously, you might know Lady Gaga was intersex also with her famous song Born This Way. So intersex individuals have been around for a very, very long time, much like transgender people. And uh, in many different uh, indigenous communities around the world, there is for a transgender community. For example, in India, they have Hijra, and in Thailand, they have the Katoi, also known as Ladyboy, and the Bernisha in Albania, and many other native indigenous communities had um, transgender people. So, but they were not intersex, you see. They were either male dressed as female or female dressed as male. For example, even where I'm from in Kenya, they have the shoga and the basha. So these communities existed for a very, very long time. Okay, next is asexual. It just means that these individuals are not attracted to anyone, regardless of their gender or the other person's gender. They're just like not into having sex, or they're not attracted to other people. And there's a couple of subgroups to asexual. Um, there's demisexual, which means they're only attracted to someone after forming a deep and strong emotional bond. And there's also gray asexual, who are attracted only under specific circumstances or very weakly. They're not very uh, attracted to other people. So the next one is pansexual. And pansexual means it comes from the Greek word pan, meaning like many. Like, for example, pandemic. So it's an epidemic that's worldwide. So pansexual means attracted to all genders, or is sometimes known as gender blind. So they have inclusivity in their modus operandi of attraction. They are not particularly about what they who they're attracted to, but they're attracted to people that they uh, that have a bond or some connection. Next, please, Marianne. So there's so that was the acronym 2SLGBTQIA plus. There's some other terminology that I like to cover. For example, AFAB, assigned female at birth or assigned male at birth. So when you're born, the doctor who delivers the baby looks at the genitals of the infant and says, "Oh, that looks like a penis, so I'll assign them male. Oh, that has a vulva, and I'll assign them female." So that's something that's done very early. But when it becomes to intersex, there is what is known as medical violence, and they they change it with consent from the parents, but they didn't actually ask the person. They can't even speak. So that's what's called medical violence, and that's not really something that should be practiced, and it's that practice is going down. Next, please. Yeah. So there is BIPOC, which means Black, Indigenous People of Color, and TPOC, Trans People of Color, or TWOC, Trans Women of Color. There's also other ones. For example, and the next slide would be uh, butch, which means a lesbian dressed more masculine, and cisgender means is actually a medical term, which means you identify in the gender that you were assigned at birth. So if you were assigned male at birth, then you identify as male, and if you were assigned female at birth, you identify as female. And next slide, please. So coming out is generally used for trans people, but it could be also for anybody in the rainbow community. Uh, but for some people, coming out, like particularly for us people from the immigrant community from Africa, particularly the Near East, Middle East, and subcontinent of India, uh, that's extremely risky um, because they're at risk for violence, aggression, assault, rape, and things worse than that. So they may have repercussions, and I mean not only here but in their home country. Their family might have to deal with repercussions of coming out. Next, please, Marianne. So drag queen is one form of an entertainer or a performer. There's also drag queen. So drag queen means it's generally a male dressed as a female to perform satire and comedy and all that sort of thing. And a drag king is a female dressed as a male to perform um, satire and comedy and political expression. So that's what drag queen or drag king means. So the next one, Marianne, is gender fluid, or also known as gender expansive. So gender fluid individuals may identify anywhere on the spectrum, and it could change. And some of the um, titles for them is you can use sibling, which is gender neutral, or nibbling as a nephew, or partner, or guardian, or adult, or child, or little one, or pibbling, like a parent, or a relative, or an elder. So these are all uh, gender neutral terminology when using to address um, gender fluid people. So let's say you have a nephew, you might want to call them my nibbling, and so on. So because of time, I have to like carry on here. And so heterosexual means, as I said, a cisgender person uh, that who was assigned male at birth identifies as male in adulthood, and those who are assigned female identify as female in adulthood. Now, the next one is non-binary. Oh, sorry, in the closet. Non-binary means anyone who does not identify as male or female in the traditional sense. So it could be a trans woman, a trans man, uh, and so on. And the next one is in the closet, I believe. Outing? Okay, in the closet. So this means that that individual has not come out to the public or may have only come out to very close individuals because they're just not ready to come out in public. Okay, Marianne, next one, please. I'm trying to leave time for questions. So outing, this is a very serious matter for those who are not out of the closet because they also risk violence, assault, rape, harm by the general public. And in no case ever should anyone out someone because they can face repercussions, as I said. Next, please, Marianne. So passing means, like, for example, myself, I dress as female and everybody knows me as female. That's passing. And not everyone, particularly in the initial stages of transition, particularly for trans persons, they're still in that phase where they haven't found their their choice of dress and external expression of gender of their gender and expression. So they're still wavering and trying to be the best that they can. So the next one is pronouns. And like my pronouns are she and her, but others use uh, they, them, she, her, he, them, or ze, zer for the younger crowd, like the Gen Z crowd, ze, them, and so on. And if you don't know someone's pronoun, it is best to ask them first, and even what name they would like to be addressed and what pronoun they would is their preference. So, and apparently there's a lot of pronouns. There's 78 in all, and even I don't know them all. But yeah, they have very many pronouns. So next is mediation matters, and this is how to approach the rainbow community when you do mediation. Uh, of course, you are the experts and we all rely upon you. You are the skilled and knowledgeable and accredited individuals who know how to handle mediation. What is lesser known is how to handle mediation with the rainbow community uh, individuals. And what I've given you in the terminology and extra terminologies is a background of how to identify them. And you may even be familiar with some of these individuals. And here are some possible scenarios and examples of when you come to the rainbow community individuals in mediation. They may be trans youth or non-binary, and their parents may be heterosexual. Generally, that's the case. Uh, it could also be trans or non-binary young adults and their parents or their guardians. Or it could be, for example, same-sex couples. Uh, and it could be just like parents trying to understand their trans child because they may not understand gender identity and expression and the difference therein. And also gender, sexual orientation. They might not know those distinctions. That's why I made them in the presentation earlier. So it's to explain to these parents, to educate them really about gender identity, gender expression, and gender orientation. Very important for the parents to understand these three distinctions. Um, and of course, as you well know, these are very, very complex, delicate situations, which require, as you very well know, fair, impartial, respectful mediation, and also a deep understanding of each individual's situation from the rainbow individual and their parent or parents or guardians. So there has to be, as you well know, understanding from both parties or even family. So it's important. This is one of the most important points: is to be fair, non-judgmental, and to be very diplomatic about these very delicate situations, and also to use inclusive language to listen actively to what not only they're saying, but what they mean by what they're saying. And and also a safe environment where they can all can speak freely without judgment, and in also in a trauma informed manner. I'm sure you know all this already. Um, and also to avoid assumptions of gender, gender identity, and expression, and orientation, gender or and sexual orientation. And these parenting roles at home uh, may include things like finances, extended family. Like, for example, in immigrant families, they have extended families living in the same place. So create a space where all sides feel safe and are in fact taken seriously. And it may be even helpful to have a one-on-one with the individual seeking mediation, and also a one-on-one with the parent and or extended family. So maybe it's time for me to take questions if you have any. Um,
I'll stop share so we can see each other, and I'm gonna unspotlight you because that is always nicer. Here we go. There we are. Trisha, you've raised your hand. You can unmute Trisha and ask your
Yep, I
question.
did. I just want to say thank you very much for, spending your lunchtime with us. And one thing I really enjoyed is that you used a lot of Greek mythology and you really kind of linked it back to where um, you know, these names and things came from, which I don't think I've ever seen anybody else do before. So I found that made it really interesting. So thank you.
yeah, you're welcome. Any other questions someone might have?
I was a little shocked to hear. I guess it's not a question, but 2017 is when trans rights were like that seems like yesterday. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I'm actually really sorry to hear that because that's
yeah. In fact, there was not even GRS, gender reassignment surgery, before that.
mm,
Only in 2017 and after will be covered under Ontario Health Insurance Plan, and both governments, the federal Liberal government of Justin Trudeau and Kathleen Wynne's government at the time, implemented these two code protected persons and the Ontario health coverage. Of course, it was limited, but it was better than nothing. Let's say, because the gender reassignment surgery would be upward of $15,000, and very few could afford that. And today it's like $30,000. So
mm-hmm.
it's like taking out a mortgage or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot. That's a lot. Yeah.
And when I was advocating for trans rights years and years ago, I was basically laughed out of the office of federal MPs, Ontario MPs, or councillors. They say, we don't recognize you. Can you just leave? So it was extremely debilitating and disheartening that we could not speak because
Mhm.
we were not recognized. So that's a point of uh, contention, about
Yeah.
it being recognized so late after the 82 Charter of Rights. Yeah, it took a while.
It took, and then when I think back to your bio and all the work that you did in a community where you weren't given, that voice is incredible. It sort of brings that home even more that the work, the advocacy, education that you've undertaken in your lifetime has the majority of that been really, you know, pushing mud up a hill.
Yeah, and it was only around 2016, 2017 that I could actually speak. For example, in this forum, I could not speak before 2017. Absolutely not. Only after 2017, 17th of June, did, and it took a while for that um, to get into the organizational structures of the of government
Yeah.
on all three levels: city council, uh, provincial, and federal.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, that took its time to become part of the culture, and it still isn't actually. It's going to
Yeah.
be a very long time. We are today where the gay movement was back in the 50s.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah,
I'm sorry it took so long, and I'm glad you're here now. It's so like good to get back to the basics and think about the language and terminology. And I think it for me it was very interesting, and I liked how you talked about the pronouns and how there are so many, and that that we don't have to be experts in 75 different pronouns. We just need to ask
right.
what are your pronouns? What would you like me to use? So that's
Yeah,
amazing.
so Matilda had a question about navigating
Good.
gender identity and expression. Matilda, could you ask the question if you don't mind?
Sure. So I'm really talking about when it comes to children and how, as mediators, we often will get that question. A lot of parents will confuse the two. They think
Right.
painting their nail that a little boy's nails means that that child is their identity. They're going to be gay or they're transitioning somehow. They're just painting their nails, like that's what they want to
Yeah,
do. And so there's
like this.
often
I paint my
a
nails.
lot of fear with that, right? Like just simple
Right,
things
right.
as they relate to kids. So how do you navigate that as mediators?
Yeah. So, as I said, these are very delicate situations, um, particularly if it's a male child painting their nails. Um, the parents might immediately form a judgment. And depending on the age of the child, you can say, your child is merely experimenting with their identity. And one of the ways that they're doing it is through painting nails, which, by the way, has become a lot more common these days. Um, Kids wear long hair, they wear makeup, they wear painted nails, they wear female clothing, and I'm talking about young youth, male youth, and even female youth. They wear like shirts and like uh, steel toe boots and so on. So they're still navigating not only their identity but also the sexual orientation, which might come later on. But if they're doing it through that gender expression. And this is the reason why I focused on gender identity, expression, and gender orientation. So these are three separate things that you have to differentiate when you're dealing with the parents. The kids already know this.
Mhm.
They're acting it out. They want to be that what they're painting their nails. They want that. But it's the parents who are resisting. So it is them that should be educated. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you.
That's a good one, Matilda. When, we hear things, the worries of parents, and I think, asking questions about what is the worry for you if you are, raising that your child painted their nails and you didn't expect them to, and working through that neutrally and not judging and trying to help parents sort of tease out, a little bit of, what the differences are between gender identity, gender expression, and gender. PinkAngel, help me because I've got those two down, but gender expression, gender orientation, and gender identity.
Yeah, so I'll go over it again.
Yeah,
Gender
thank you.
identity.
Yeah,
So gender identity is internal,
internal.
inwardly. What one, the innate experience of one's inner self. That's how you identify as trans, as gay, as lesbian, or whatever in the spectrum. It's internal. You cannot see it.
Mm-hmm.
Gender expression is outwardly. Like, for example, I wear hair, long hair, and pink and lipstick. That's an expression of my identity, of my inner self. This is how I present to the world. And sexual orientation is who I'm attracted to.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, I'm what they call like a demisexual. I have to form a really serious bond between the other person.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not like, oh, we'll have sex this evening. No, I have to know you for a number of years and we have to bond together, what is known as demisexual, but it's
Mm-hmm.
not asexual. For example, sexual orientation is like lesbian. A female is attracted to another female, or a gay man is attracted to another gay man. That's sexual orientation.
Got it.
Or a trans woman may be attracted to another trans woman, or trans woman may be attracted to a trans man, or a straight man, or a straight woman.
Mm-hmm.
So that's sexual orientation, who they're attracted to, and it
Nice.
could be anywhere in the spectrum.
Thank you for the update. I think it's good. It was good for me. I hope it was good for others too.
And
Um,
and and very many people don't understand it at the first go. So I'm
yeah.
not surprised at all. They need repetition of these three distinctions.
For sure. Because I don't think that we're given a lot of representation of those three distinctions in our social media, what we read,
Yeah,
what we're taught, how we move through the world. So thank you for that primer on the words and they matter. And I really, really appreciate Pink Angel you coming here. You have been fantastic. It's been great to have you engaged in OFM on our Black History Month events, and seeing you here now is like, and knowing your connection to our work and seeing the work that we do and valuing that is really lovely to hear. And we value you and your work. And thank you for everything you do. And until next
yeah.
time. Yeah,
I really appreciate you having me. I know you do excellent work and keep doing that excellent work because it's really needed.
that's
Thank
right.
you very much.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
an honor. It's an honor to speak to all you mediators. Happy Pride to all. Thank you.
Thank, thank you, Pink Angel. Happy Pride. Happy Pride, everyone.
Okay, bye
Enjoy.
bye.
Thank you. Okay, we'll talk soon.
Okay.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
bye bye.
Bye. Bye.